What's up, everyone? Welcome to this week's Alphathoughts.
And today we're talking about one of my favorite topics, the travel bug.
So, Ruth, we were inspired to talk about this topic this week because, we both love travel.
Yeah.
And I think more importantly, we were reading a couple articles about sort of how, the travel industry is lagging behind in sort of like really, I think, meeting customer expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I think at heart, what we see with travel and what's happening is that, I think the center is moved on what the product is. In the beginning, it used to be about appointing features and services. And now the experience, the intangibles are also coming, I think, equally important in the process.
Yeah. So I think those people who have the travel bug are no longer necessarily looking at hotels and others in the travel agency to create a haven for them away from home. They're looking for immersion and experiences.
Yeah.
So that really changes the offerings that a hotel or other company, whether that's a car service, flights, can offer to a customer. So they're, I think, failing on both sides as far as pulling in that immersion into the hotel experience.
Yeah, because these are all like third-party things, right?
Right. And also bringing that people out into the experience of the city. One company that is doing this fairly well, but I think would be on the startup side, is Airbnb, because they're changing their product away from just a bed at night into an experience in a place, in a neighborhood, and they've already started talking to their customers in that kind of way. And I think they see that quality is not synonymous with being a haven, and you can have safety and a comfortable place with that immersion element integrated inside.
Absolutely. Ruth, I think you made a really good point about Airbnb and sort of like that reinvention process. And I think the thing that separates sort of the way startups see the world and think about solving problems is they turn data into insights, as the first and foremost thing, right? I think like corporations look at sort of the machine they've developed to figure out like how can I leverage those assets in new and interesting ways. And the startups tend to sort of say like, great, what is the observable data that I can get from people? Like, where's there a gap, and how do I solve for that problem? And I think like for companies that are trying to figure out how to really escape sort of the path they're on, I think they really need to figure out how to use data as a primary source as opposed to sort of treating it as this sort of like thing that happens after the thing you've made has been created.
So how do they create some magic with that data? How do they bring their finger in the data and merge them together? Because big companies could have data as well.
I think it's about when you have the data, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so if you have the data like at the end of the process,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, and you're just like trying to measure KPIs, then you're not necessarily going to be able to react to it as well, right? But I think if you start with a small amount of information or insight, like more qualitative, and work your way towards quantitative, you have a better chance for success.
So you're saying that some of these corporations are looking at the data after the fact, or how people are reacting to their product, rather than the data that's available amongst all the consumers in industry?
That's right. Like, so I think like for example, if you're a hotel and all you look at is like how many people leave tips or how many towels do people use, right? Like that doesn't really ever get you to the path of like people want experiences, right? Like it's just sort of iterative down a rabbit hole, but like how does that ever lead to an improvement?
So a great example of this is in the concierge service. You're just measuring how many people use your concierge service, and you say, oh, okay, well, there's only a few people that use it.
Yeah.
So they must not want curation. You might
That's right.
reduce your investment
really?
in curation when
Yeah.
that, in fact, that's what people really want, is a highly curated custom trip to what they're looking for.
That's right.
In their travels.
I think that's absolutely right.
I think some companies like Design Hotels and Ace Hotels are doing a good job of being both a haven and integrating into the local neighborhood, whether that's having wine in Healdsburg or the right kind of cocktail in New Orleans. Or the right pool in Palm Springs, more importantly.
Yeah. I think you mentioned before, Airbnb, I think like just on the startup side, they've definitely embraced sort of how to turn the hosts into an asset, a big part of their network and the resources, as opposed to just the properties, right? And really valuing and appreciating all the assets that they have available to them.
Yeah.
Okay, so our question for you is, who do you love for travel? Who do you like traveling with?
Yeah, who do you feel brings you that neighborhood integration into where you're staying and lets you access that local culture?
Yeah, and are there any times when you don't want that? Like, tell us about that too.
Yeah.
Looking forward to hearing from you.
Hey, whatever you do, don't talk about capitalism.
Really?